An Unkindness of Ghosts by Rivers Solomon, is a 2017 sci-fi dystopian novel, which I do not have with me because I borrowed it on ebook on Libby. But maybe I'll put something here. Who knows? Anyway, sci-fi dystopian novel takes place on a ship called the Matilda, and this ship is more of an ark for the remnants of humanity who have fled Earth because it supposedly became uninhabitable for some reason. That doesn't get really any in-depth discussion in the book, but humanity is searching for a new home across the stars, and they have been searching for hundreds of years, for many generations. And we follow a character named Aster, and the way this ship kind of is structured, as socially and politically, it is very much a race-based class system where the upper deckers are light-skinned and the lower deckers are dark-skinned, and the lower deckers are treated pretty horribly. There are pretty terrible things that happen on and off the page in this story. They're treated that way by the upper deckers, who are the ruling class, and the sort of military-esque guards that patrol the ship are all upper deckers as well. So it's a very on the nose sort of racial story, sci-fi story, but I don't mean that in any sort of like pejorative way or anything like that. I think it's very well done. It's not explicitly explained to you right off the bat. You kind of figure out, oh, this is how this society is run. This is how things are ordered. You kind of figure that out over the course of the story as things happen, and small hints are kind of dropped in there. So even though the concept is pretty on the nose, pretty obvious, I didn't feel, I wasn't sitting there rolling my eyes at it or anything as I was reading it. I thought it was very well done. So as I said, the book follows a young woman named Aster, who is very clearly being portrayed to be most likely on the autistic spectrum, but at the very least some other form of neurodivergence. And as a protagonist, and as the sort of point of view, the perspective that we get throughout the story, she's very compelling. She sees the world in a different way. I kind of mentioned this when I was talking about Annihilation, but there's just something about characters that are written who have a very unique perspective on the world around them that is really engrossing to me. And Aster's perspective is certainly unique and certainly interesting. She is a doctor's apprentice, I suppose you could call it. She's a lower decker, and is apprenticing under a man called the surgeon, who is an upper decker, who has quite a bit of sway, quite a bit of power on the ship, and the story kind of centers around Aster and her search for what happened to her mother. She gets kind of sent on this little breadcrumb trail, but as far as she knows, at the beginning of the story, her mother died when she was very young, and then she starts finding some hints and clues that maybe point to something else. And so there's a little bit of a mystery going on with that. There's also like a rebellion. I don't know if you would even call it a subplot. They're like both two very prominent plots in the story. So, lower deckers rebelling against the upper deckers, that kind of happens partway through the book, or, starts happening partway through the book. But, yeah, I thought it was a decent read overall. The biggest complaint I have with it is it's for not being a very long book, it tries to do quite a bit and tackles a lot of different themes and ideas. And as you're reading it, it kind of feels a little unfocused a lot of the time, because it is sort of talking about things like ableism and neurodivergence and racism and sexual violence and rebellion, and there's the mystery plot going on as well. There's a lot happening, and that does a great thing to kind of serve the world that Solomon has created, and that's one of my favorite parts of the book was learning about this ship and humanity and the people living aboard it. But at the same time, plot-wise, it felt like it kind of was jumping around a lot at some points and kind of dragging at other points, and until at or after about 2/3 of the way through the book, I wasn't really sure what the book was going to be about, because we had so many ideas and so many plot threads happening that I wasn't really sure where it's going. And fortunately, I think the ending really did pull it off. I think the author really pulled it off in the end. It was a very nice ending, very satisfying. Maybe almost cathartic in some ways, certainly for the characters. But yeah, it was that first 2/3 of the book was a bit of a slog for me, trying to figure out, what was happening, where we were going next. Overall, though, decent read, and very well written as well. The writing is beautiful. Kind of hard to believe that this was a debut novel. I think it was a debut novel. And yeah, I'm not chomping at the bit to read anything more by Rivers Solomon, but this, if that concept sounds interesting to you, I would definitely dive into this one, because it's well worth the read to any interested sci-fi fans. Just keep in mind that if you don't have a whole lot of patience, it might be a bit of a slog to get through the first part of the book for you. But yeah, if you have read this book, let me know what you think, and I will see you next time.